Who can take your trash out? Stomp it down for you. Shake the plastic bag and do the twisty thingy too. The garbage man.
Oh, the garbage man can.
All right, everyone, get started. I know you're all busy, so I want to make sure that I can kind of get you going and explain this to you. Again, I really appreciate you taking part tonight. For those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Scott Ehrlich. I'm a candidate for City Council Post 3 in the Peachtree Corners elections. Tonight we're going to talk about the topic of sanitation, the delivery, the SDS, and our relationship with Gwinnett County. And the reason for that I'm having this conference is to let you know, obviously, in the city of Peachtree Corners, we're entitled to provide, or not entitled, required to provide 3 services. And sanitation is obviously a very important one that affects us on a week-to-week and day-to-day basis, so I wanted to start with that one. I had originally intended on doing a very short PowerPoint presentation. As I delved into this issue, there's nothing simple or short about it. So for those of you who aren't on a laptop or aren't able to access my PowerPoint presentation, I'll try to explain what's on the screen. Not all of it's necessary to be seeing, but it wouldn't hurt to be following along. And again, this webinar is be recorded, and both my slides and the audio of this webinar will be available for download on my website at choosescott.com. So again, I thank you very much for joining me. I also wanted to first tell you about how to use this tool a little better. I believe it should be on the top right side of your screen. There should be something that looks like a little hand, like something waving at you. If you click that button, that lets me know that you have a question or something to say, and I can do that, and I can unmute your line, and that way we can talk. I'm going to try to hold those off till I finish my brief remarks so we can move through this fairly quickly, and I can get to what I need to do before I get to your questions and comments. However, if there is something that you want to ask me right away, there are 2 other ways to reach me. You can use the chat function, which should also be on the right side of your screen, which you can use to talk with other participants or with me. There's also something called Q&A that should be at the bottom of the screen. You want to click at the bottom window. I know there's 2 squares. There's one in the bottom is where you can start typing text in. So if you have something you want to ask from me, maybe I'm speaking too fast, maybe I'm not speaking loud enough, maybe you need clarification on something I said, feel free to type it in there. And again, like I said, I'll open up to an open forum when I'm done speaking. So if you're not on this computer and have a harder time letting me know you have a remark, I'll try to give you a chance to talk then. If you're on the phone and can get to a computer, there should be a link on there which you just need to click on to get into the webinar, and the password is post3. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know. But as I explained, my name is Scott Ehrlich. I am a candidate for City Council Post 3, which basically goes from the Peachtree Corners Circle and north, and probably extends east, I think, all the way to Buford Highway, and north to the county line and west to the county line. So it's a large district. I believe there's almost 9,000 registered voters in it, and we're going to have a lot to say in how the city is run in the near future. So I wanted to chat with you, get your opinion on some of that, and I figured sanitation was a good way to start. So first, we're talking about the SDS, and that's the service delivery strategy. I want to give some brief background because I know not everyone's caught up to speed on what all this stuff means. I know I wasn't caught up to speed on what all this stuff meant until I got involved with the election. And the SDS is called the service delivery strategy, and it's a process that gives local governments and authorities the opportunities to reach agreement on the delivery of services in an effective and cost-efficient manner to Georgia's citizens. The intent of the Act is to provide a flexible framework for local governments and authorities to agree on the service delivery arrangements to minimize any duplication or competition among local governments and authorities providing local services, and to provide a method of resolving disputes among service providers regarding service delivery, funding equity, and land use. I know it's exciting stuff. It's very dense language, and it gets even worse. What you see is the service delivery, the service delivery strategy is defined in the Georgia codes, and you need to have 4 components. You need to identify what services are going to be in it. You need to assign which local government or authority, whether it be the city or the county or perhaps the state, will be taking care of that. You also need to describe where the funding is going to come from for each of that and how each of those will be funded and implemented. Obviously, in the codes, it's said in much, much more verbose language, so I'm trying to keep it simple. So if you haven't heard, there's a lawsuit actually taking place with Gwinnett County where some people have actually sued over the service delivery strategy, and that has been, I believe, going on for 3 or 4 years now. The cities have actually won the lawsuit, but Gwinnett County has appealed it to the Georgia Supreme Court. And last I heard, they were still trying to work this out, but I haven't heard anything regarding a settlement yet. Last I heard, they were still talking, but there was no new changes. But the status, and I got this from the Georgia Municipal Association, the SDS requires the county to create special service districts to fund SDS services when the parties cannot agree on the funding mechanism. Basically, is the money coming from city taxes or is it coming from county property taxes? And the county has the one that has to better define what it is. The whole reason for this is to make sure that you're not paying for the same service twice, and you're also not paying for services that you're not receiving. Again, this was not as big an issue when we were in an unincorporated Gwinnett, where all our services were being taken care of by Gwinnett County. But now that we're in our own city, you're going to be paying a city tax, possibly. That hasn't been decided yet, but there's a very good chance there will be some sort of city tax, as well as a county tax. And the goal of this is to make sure you're not paying for the same services twice. Now, as part of the city strategy and as part of the charter, they picked services that were designed to be some of the least costly for residents and involve the least duplication and easily segmentable. So these are the 6 major SDS services that a county is required to provide: police, fire and emergency medical, zoning, development, licensing and permitting, code enforcement, solid waste, and certain other services. And the only 3 services Gwinnett County Peachtree Corners will be providing at this point is zoning, code enforcement, and solid waste. Now, we'll still have to negotiate with the county to provide those other services, and they're required to continue doing it as they are for another 2 years, but eventually we'll have to come to an agreement on the cost and quality of these services. So this gives us a good chance to negotiate the services as they want to be, and I'll delve into that a little bit later going on. But the one I want to focus on today is sanitation. Now, zoning, development, licensing, and permitting, and code enforcement, which are 2 others I'll be delving into next week at a webinar next Wednesday at the same time. So I invite you to tell other people. I think there will be a lot of questions and confusion on that one. If you think what I'm about to tell you on sanitation is going to be complex, wait till we get to some of this stuff, because that's a lot of legal language and very important stuff. But sanitation is something I thought would be very simple. I mean, basically, you put the trash out, it gets picked up, and occasionally you pay for it. It's anything but. I thought I could explain this in about 3 slides, and I got about another 10 to 15 slides, because it's a very complex situation we have with the county right now. And I want to give a little history to bring you up to speed as to why that is. Georgia requires a solid waste plan. I got this from the state government website. And basically in 1990, they came up with a state waste plan to make sure that we're disposing of trash properly, to make sure there's a strategy to make sure landfills are well used, that recycling is done. And while the Georgia statute is very specific and stuff, it also allows counties and cities to come up with their own solid waste strategy. There's a link to this, and again, I'd be happy to send you any of the paperwork on all this if you wish. Again, if you want to read all 100 pages of some of these statutes. Well, Gwinnett County came up with one in 2010, and it was called the Gwinnett County Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Services Ordinance of 2010. And that delved into what Gwinnett County Solid Waste Plan is going to look like, and that is responsible for the trash plan that we have now. For those of you that have been in Gwinnett County a while, you know until this trash plan, you could choose your own trash hauler. You could basically, it would be like choosing a cell phone service or a TV company or anything like that. You look at the options, you figure out which one has the best pricing or best services for you, and you contract with them. Now, this certainly had positives because it gave you a choice among a number of providers, and I believe some flexibility in price and services. The downside with this is, since all the providers did stuff on different days and at different times, you never knew, there would always be trash cans out. There'd be different trucks coming through your yard, not through your yard, I hope not, but through your neighborhood at many, many different days during the week. So you weren't always, it got a little messy sometimes because, having garbage trucks out all the time is not an ideal situation. And, sometimes for the garbage trucks, they weren't always sure which houses to pick up from, so it led to a little bit of confusion. So that's why Gwinnett County came up with this plan. And in 2010, it basically applied to all lands and premises in unincorporated Gwinnett County. Cities were allowed to come up with their own plan or go with the county plan. And what they decided was to divide the Gwinnett County into no more than 5 residential service areas and enter into service providence agreements with residential service providers and to provide solid waste disposal in each area. Now, I believe for all of Peachtree Corners, but I could be mistaken, our service provider is Waste Pro, and they have really all the southern part of Gwinnett County. Now, regarding that, since we no longer have a choice of stuff, they were able to fix prices. I should say that makes it sound nefarious. But Gwinnett County was the ones that were actually setting the price, and what Gwinnett County did was basically take their total trash charge for all these companies and set it up to be basically divided that by the number of households, and that's how they came up with the price. I believe for 2011, it was $17.86 per month per household. Now it's risen to $18.16. I have no idea what it's going to rise to in the future with rising fuel costs. It's kind of hard to say, but I'm sure it will continue to go up, especially as more residents move into Gwinnett County. There's an advantage to this trash plan. Obviously, you have a more certitude as to when you're putting your trash out. Everyone in your neighborhood is probably going to have trash collection on the same day and from the same service provider, but it does cut down the competition. So this went into effect on July 1st, 2010, and it was actually illegal for any service to contract with another private service provider. Again, this only applied to unincorporated Gwinnett County, which we were until not so long ago. So that was how it did work. However, Gwinnett County entered in this agreement, and I know this has been something that people have asked me about extensively, which is how long is this agreement that they've entered into? Well, according to the lengthy Gwinnett County Solid Waste Plan, they're allowed to enter into agreements up to 10 years. And in fact, that's what they did. If you actually look at the contract with the haulers, and I haven't actually been able to find a ratified contract. What I was able to find was a sample contract that I believe was used, and I assume it's the same as what the haulers have ratified. From the information I have, it seems like it would be. But it was an 8-year contract with a 2-year renewal term that we are basically contracted with our trash hauler, which again is Waste Pro, and I guess the rest of Gwinnett County would be contracted with whoever their respective trash hauler is. Now you see it's an 8-year term with an automatic 2-year renewal unless either party is able to opt out of it. So it's hard to say how well this applies to us because also in that contract it defined the plan applying to certain cities. It says the waste management plan was developed for Gwinnett County and the cities of Berkeley Lake, Decula, Duluth, Grayson, Lawrenceville, Lilburn, Norcross, Snellville, Sugar Hill, and Sewanee. Now you notice conspicuously absent from that is Peachtree Corners. Now obviously they couldn't come up with a trash plan for the city of Peachtree Corners because on 2010 there was no city of Peachtree Corners. So I guess the question is, does this trash plan apply to us? Could we come up with our own trash plan, or are we bound by this Gwinnett County contract until 2018? And should we proceed with our own trash plan, or should we stick to that? And these are complicated issues. So the question, and I've talked about this with some of the waste haulers. I've talked about this with some of the people that are much smarter than me on some of these city legal issues, and I get the same kind of answers. Are we free to start our own plan? Maybe we are, maybe we're not. Now, the question as to why we should start our own plan is, can we do trash cheaper? And think about it. We're a very compact area here in Gwinnett County, although there's almost 40,000 residents of Peachtree Corners. You're talking about a lot of homes that are very close together. So it's a lot cheaper to do trash than, say, an area in more rural Gwinnett County where the homes are more spaced apart, because trash haulers can get a lot more houses done in a much shorter amount of time for much less gas. So in my conversations, both with trash haulers and some stuff I've heard from other people and some things I've heard from other cities, is that we could probably get trash service for $12 to $13 a month, which is a fairly significant savings over the $18, $16 we're currently paying. And as I explained, it's cheaper because the homes are closer, there's less driving time, they need less staff to pick up the same amount of homes. So it seems like a no-brainer that we'd start our own service, but you have to remember that when you consider that $12 to $13 a month, that's just the price for trash collection. There's a lot of other things that we need to think about. First of all, if we pull out of the trash plan with Gwinnett County, that means our trash prices will go down, but other trash prices for people in unincorporated Gwinnett County will go up. Obviously, if it's costing these trash companies, say $12 to $13 to service us, but it's $18 is the price that they're charging to everyone, that means it costs considerably more than $12 to $13 to service other areas of Gwinnett County. So if the cheaper areas of Gwinnett County pull out, being Peachtree Corners, those prices are going to go up. Now, that doesn't really bother us as residents of Peachtree Corners, but I assume the residents of there won't be very happy with it. I know we've already been threatened by some of their representatives to go to a lawsuit if we do out of that, because they feel that we are bound by this Gwinnett Trash County contract. Also, we have to negotiate with the county in 2 years for other services. So there may be some leftover ill will if we go into some contentious trash contract negotiations due to the pulling out of this contract or fighting them in court. So not only do we have to worry about the legal fees there, but it might be something where even if we were to win this dispute, and I think we would, because I think it's hard to get someone to hold a legal entity, which Peachtree Corners is as a city, to a trash contract that they didn't actually enter into. There's a lot of other residual damage we can do with goodwill, and it may be something where, since Gwinnett County would be spending several $1,000s to fight a lawsuit or file a lawsuit with us, they may try to pass those costs on to us in other service we try to negotiate with Gwinnett County. So, in my conversations, both with trash haulers and some stuff I've heard from other cities, it seems like a no-brainer that we start our own plan. And I guess the question is, does this trash plan apply to us? I guess parallel with that, you have to remember also that we're in a contract with a certain service provider, Waste Pro, and they are probably under the impression that they're under contract with us for another 8 years. So it would be a situation, too, where you have to think if they're losing a significant revenue from Gwinnett County, and I assume our trash contract is probably several $1 million, they probably wouldn't be too happy about it. And I would assume if we pull out and try to contract with a trash provider other than Waste Pro, they may consider that legal options. That's more money we would have to put out there to defend a lawsuit with them. You also have to think of another aspect. The $12 to $13 relates to trash pickup. What it doesn't relate to is billing. So there's a certain cost, obviously, to get everyone to pay for that trash pickup as well. That's not included in that $12 to $13. There's also the fact that if people aren't paying, then we have to go after them and try to get that money. As president of my HOA of 260 homes, I know we spend almost 5 figures a year going after homeowners that aren't necessarily paying HOA dues. So you imagine in a city of 40,000 people what the legal fees could be to track down people that aren't paying their, I guess it would be about $150 a year in trash service fees. So you have to look at all these aspects and decide whether it is or isn't better for us to pull out of the trash agreement. So I guess sum it up, what would I do if I was elected? Well, the first thing I would do is I would bid out the trash service. I want to find actual quotes of what we can get trash service for. I've heard $12 to $13, but some of it's hearsay, some of it's hypothetical, none of it's official bids, and none of it says actually what we would get for that $12 to $13. Would we get yard waste? Would we get some door-side pickup? What other options do we have, and what does that $12 to $13 include? So obviously it's important to find out what we're paying for and how much we'd actually be paying for. And I think it's something where having more information is always obviously better than having less information. The next thing I would do is I would survey the community, and I would love to get some responses from you as to how you feel your trash service is now. Obviously, we'd all like the same service for a cheaper price, and if it was that simple, I think it's a no-brainer as to what we should do. But obviously, since there's a lot of costs and a lot of headaches involved with potentially pulling out of the trash contract, I guess the next question is, are you guys happy with the trash service you're getting now? Do you think it's worth the money you're paying? Is it a good service? Is it worth the headaches to try to fight that and all that? And if you're not happy with the trash service, why? What is it we're missing? What is it you'd like to see happen? So that's something else we have to consider as well, and I would certainly consider. Obviously, if people are largely happy with the trash service contract, I see no reason to be making a change. If you're not happy with the trash service contract, and that's the general impression I get, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying if that's the general impression I get, then I'd obviously be more inclined to fight it, even if the monetary savings aren't as good. Thirdly, I would discuss with the county to see what it would sell to settle the trash dispute. Obviously, contentious relationship with the county is not what we would desire, since they'll be providing a lot of our services and police services and emergency services, and I don't want them to try to stick it to us in SDS negotiations. I don't want them to try to stick it to us in some of the services they'll continue to provide for us. So you want to try to keep things friendly and cordial with Gwinnett County. But I also think that they probably would be willing to settle if they could get us to make up some of the costs that they would have to pass on to some of the new consumers. Is that something we'd be willing to consider? Well, it depends on what the price tag for that is. But that's another dollar figure we have to factor into our actual trash costs. I would also discuss with the hauler if something such as Waste Pro to see if they would act the same as the county. Would they litigate with it if we were to go with someone else? And if so, what would it cost to settle with them? Because that, again, is cost we would have to factor into our trash contract. Lastly, I would have to look at that, the cost of residents of remaining in a county versus the trash agreement. And I see I have a couple questions, and I'll get to you guys both in a minute. But so what I want to do is try to get as much information out there to you guys so you know what the real cost of trash would be for you and what the situation would be, and then really solicit your input. Is it worth trying to get out of a trash contract if, say, there are real costs are $16 a month versus $18 a month, or it could be $20 a month versus the $18 we're paying now, or it could be $13 a month. That's something that we in the new city will have to find out, but it's something you should ask of your elected representatives and candidates and find out what they plan on doing in this area. So my goal is to try to find out as much information as I can, accurate information, give you an accurate picture of your real trash costs. Now, in my opinion, the likely outcome of all this is based on projected costs. We probably are best off remaining in a county plan unless and until costs rise significantly. I think with the $6 a month spread, it's hard to justify with all the other costs that are likely to go into it to probably get cheaper trash that way, unless, again, there's widespread dissatisfaction with our current trash service. On the other hand, if costs rise, and again, gas prices are rising, I've heard some rumors that they could even be $5 a gallon by this summer, and Gwinnett County will pass it on to us. So again, with these shorter distances that these trucks need to travel, there may be an issue where we could save a significant amount of money by doing local trash service. That may not be in 2012, that may be in 2014, that may be in 2016. Also, in 2018, when a trash fund expires and a lot of these litigation expenses are no longer something to factor in, I do think it probably makes sense to run trash service. But again, I'm running for a 4-year term. I said I will not run for re-election. I think that's something where it is my responsibility to gather the right information, to gather the right pricing, and to get the information gathered. But again, I think that's more of a question for a future city council representative to decide. So I guess you're thinking, are we stuck? Are we stuck in this trash contract? Are we stuck with the services we have now if it's not economically feasible? And the answer is no, because there's also the fact there that while we have to negotiate with Gwinnett County to get them to continue to provide our services, they have to produce services with us. So it's in their interest, obviously, to keep us for as many services as possible, because with those services come our tax dollars. Peachtree Corners is the biggest city in Gwinnett County, and it brings a lot of tax revenue into Gwinnett. So they want to do it for us as well. So there's a good chance where we can get them to possibly add some services to our trash contract or some other places when we negotiate our SDS strategy to keep us in the trash agreement. Since we have the actual power to pull out of not only trash, but we could vote on other services that are very lucrative for Gwinnett County, police, parks, paving, and those are things that if we wanted to, we could do ourselves. We do have some leverage in the space. So I do want you to remember that is something that we can consider. So I just want to let you know where I stand on these issues, that my goal is to always seek facts, to try to distill them and present to you for comment and do what you want. Again, my goal is to serve the representatives that I'm running for in the best way possible. And the best way I feel I can do that is to do the research for you, bring you an accurate assessment of what is actually going on, and then get your opinions on it. I want you to help me make this your city. If you elect me, you'll know that I always try to do my best to get you the info you need, but I always take citizen comments very seriously. Again, not everything's up to a referendum, not everything's a popular vote, but certainly if one thing is if people are overwhelmingly against our current trash service, then regardless of what I think may be best, I'll look for an alternate route. And conversely, if people are largely happy with our trash service, I see no reason to do that. But I need your help to make this done, and this is my quick pitch to you before I get to your questions. I need you to tell your friends about me, your neighbors, help me put up some signs, to make some calls and knock on doors, attend the forums. We're having candidate forums next Monday, Tuesday, and the following Monday. The one for this district is Monday, February 6th, but I'll be at all 3 of them, and I look forward to meeting you, talking with you about this or any other issues. I would love you to be there. I'd love you to friend me on Facebook, ask me questions through there, comment on my blogs. Let me know what it is you want. Let me know what you're interested in and what your key issues are. And, of course, I can always use some of your money, but the money is only needed to do these other things. So I'd much rather have your time than your money, and I appreciate you giving me the time right now. So if you have any questions, comments, and complaints, I'll open things up. I see I have 3 now, and I'll try to do them in the order that they were received. The first was from one of the residents who asked why we can't choose which trash provider we had, when I know this is why we used to. Actually, this is 2 of the questions. And again, that is because of the Gwinnett County Solid Waste Plan, which passed in 2010. This has to do with Gwinnett trying to make its trash service what it felt was more efficient. Now, again, legally, we probably can choose our own trash hauler at some point. Can we do it right now? Perhaps. And I've talked to lawyers, I've talked to people much smarter than me about this issue, and no one really has a clear sense. And unfortunately, after having been in law school and having dealt with some of these things, there's never any right answer to this. There's always an answer. And what the question is which answer is the best answer? Well, that can depend on which judge you get to. That can depend on which lawyers you get for each side. So it's a risk anytime you get into this stuff, but anytime you bring litigation into this, it gets very costly. So there is always a risk if we try to pull out of this contract and Gwinnett fights us, which I think they will, and they've already said they will, and if Gwinnett doesn't, some of the representatives of some of the other citizens that will be affected by this might. So again, can we choose our own trash hauler? We might be able to, but the reason we can't is because of the solid waste ordinance passed by Gwinnett County in 2010. The next question I got was about some of the cheaper contracts we had. I have someone that says they used to have a contract for $15 a month for their subdivision. So that gives you a sense that trash can be done cheaper. I don't necessarily know if that would be the case. Nowadays, obviously, it's illegal for a subdivision right now because of that same ordinance to contract with a trash hauler in the same sense that they may have before. However, you also have to remember that one subdivision is a lot smaller than one city. So theoretically, if a trash hauler had exclusivity over a city, instead of $15 a month, which they used to do it for this subdivision, they could do it for an entire city much cheaper because, again, there's a lot more houses, and they can spread their costs up a lot more in an economy of scale. So I'll leave it open to a few other people and see if I can get something, if you have something to say to me. And again, before I get to that, I want to, for those who joined us late, I want to let you know how this tool works. Again, on the right-hand side, there should be something that looks like a little hand. If you push that hand, that lets me know that you have a question or a comment, and I will unmute you and try to call on you in the order as I get your comments. There's also a chat function and a Q&A function. If you click on the Q&A in the bottom window, you can type a question or a comment to me, and I will try to read it or get it discussed as quickly as I can. Again, I'm going to try to do these in the order as they're received, and I'm very happy with the participation. Again, I'm very happy for you all for joining me. So if it takes me a little while to get to you, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to get them as they come in. So the first one I have, let me see if I can figure out how to get this done right so I can unmute you correctly. It always seems so easy until I try to do it. My first one will be William DeLeo. William, can you hear me?
Yes, hi. I'm the one that wrote about the $15 a month. I mean, I live in Linfield, and we've got 79 houses in here, but yet we were able to contract, and we didn't. It wasn't even a contract where they said that everybody has to use them. It's just that we said we would try to get everybody to use waste management, and they charged us only $15 a month, which included included yard waste. Now we pay more than $15 a month, and that just includes trash, and it's an extra $10 a month for yard waste. And like you said, it would seem to me that if you're going to give a contract for the whole city, it should be even less than that. I don't know who negotiated that price, but certainly it was a worse negotiation than we were able to do it just as a small subdivision. It's very perplexing.
Sure, and William, again, you have to remember, and again, this isn't, this is just to kind of, let you know where Gwinnett County is, but again, they put the price was done based on for everyone in unincorporated Gwinnett County. So again, while the actual cost to residents in Peachtree Corners of getting our trash picked up is probably in a $12, $13 range. I know you said you're able to do it for $15, including yard waste. The cost of probably doing it in a place like Tacoola or Snellville. Well, Snellville's fairly compact, but maybe a place like Loganville, for example, for that, could end up being $20, $25 per house. But basically the way they did it was, and I think they're required by statute to do that, to charge everyone the same in unincorporated Gwinnett County for these services. They basically took the price of all the houses, took the total cost of all the trash service, and just divided it up equally. So that's how it got to the $18, as I understand it. Now, again, obviously, if we take those $20 to $25 homes out of the equation, our trash service becomes much, much cheaper to do. But as I explained, there are a lot of things that we have to do to get to that point. Now, I know you mentioned before that you were able to get it with lawn service and waste management.
Yard waste.
With yard waste. So how do you feel about, obviously you're not happy that you're paying more for it, but, what do you think? What would you like to see done?
Well, I think.
Would you like to just open things up like it was before? Would you like us to contract with a different trash hauler that includes yard waste, or try to get that as part of our deal, or?
Well, I think a better negotiation needs to be done. I don't know how they negotiated that, but certainly that would be a big contract for a waste hauler, and I think we should go back and say, all right, we're taking bids on these, and this is what we expect. We're counting on, or we're looking for a bid, between X and Y. And if you give us a low bid, then you'll get our business. But again, we're just a small subdivision, and I understand what you're saying as far as houses being spread out, so it costs more. But certainly, it just seems to me that again, a government agency just didn't do a very good job of trying to get the best price for us.
Sure, and and as I explained, I'm sure again we could get a better deal, but the thing we have to worry about again is litigation, and it's something where to be quite honest with you, I could make myself look great. I could say get you $12 a month garbage, and that's you have to watch that from people running for it and people once they're serving, because we can all say that, and then we could come out and you could get your trash bill and it'll say $12 a month, and we talk about how great we are. But what you won't see on your trash bill are those legal fees that cost us to get out of the contract. You won't see on there the settlement fees we may have had to pay to Gwinnett County or some other hauler. And obviously those fees are fees that are going to be passed on to you one way or another, whether it's through taxes or higher property things. So you have to be cognizant of that too. That you need to when and this isn't just for me, but this should be for a question for any candidate that you have. It's that when you do look at the trash thing, please give us the actual cost of what this is costing, including everything, including trash fees, legal fees, any settlement fees, any administrative fees. So you're really comparing apples to apples. Because again, it's pretty easy to hide those costs in a pretty big government budget. And so the only thing you're seeing is $12 a month, and suddenly I look great because I say I cut your trash, trash price is $6 a month. On the other hand, it may be a situation where the actual cost of the trash could be $25 a month when you add in those other fees, and you don't know that, and you don't see that, and we look really good because of that. But I appreciate your comments. I have a bunch lined up, and I thank you for calling in. I have Kevin. Kevin, give me 1 second. Kevin, can you hear me? Kevin, are you there? I must have lost him. Let me go to the next one. I feel like I'm hosting a call-in sports show right now. Let me go to Ash. Ash, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, personally, I was paying much more to waste management before, like it used to be between 18 and 20 for many years. So I have no problems with what we are paying today to Gwinnett County and with the service. So I'm just wondering if that is the biggest issue the county, our city is facing, that people are worried about, not happy with trash, and so I just wanted to know if this is one of the major issues that you are coming up with when you talk with people here.
Well, again, and you have to remember that we're only contracted, Peachtree Corners is only authorized to provide service in 3 areas: trash, code enforcement, and zoning. Obviously, as the first caller spoke with, it is something that he finds to be ineffective and such. So it is a situation where, it is something that affects some people, and I think because it's something that everyone deals with, I think it's something that hits very close to home. Obviously it comes out of your home, so it's something that's, we're all dealing with. So, it's hard to say it's a big issue, and again, I haven't really heard anything one way or another. I think a lot of people were fairly outraged when it happened. I think people didn't like losing the choice of trash hauler. As to whether there's outrage as to whether, as to what is currently going on, or are people really dissatisfied with the service or the price, I don't really know. And, my goal, that's part of the reason I'm holding this forum right now, is because I want to know. I want to know how people feel about it. And like I said, if things are overwhelming one way or the other, that's the way I'll proceed. But I would certainly like to know, how you feel and how other people feel. Please email me, post comments. I'd love to put out some surveys for you and just get a sense of what people think about the trash service, and try to get the best deal I can for you, get the most service for the most price. And that's as much as I can offer, and I will certainly try to do it. I had someone questioned me, and I asked if we can contract with the tax commissioner to collect trash fees on residents' bills. I believe we can. I believe we can contract wherever we can. And when I said to add administrative costs to it, I didn't necessarily mean we had to do it ourselves. It's my understanding, I believe, that we can contract pretty much anything out with the county or a private party other than police or fire. Obviously, for pretty obvious reasons, they don't like the idea of people using their own emergency services or some kind of private police force, so it's a reason we can't for that. I would think, and from some of the other people that are running for this, I would think in most cases it probably makes sense to contract out with someone. Maybe it's a tax commissioner, maybe it's a private billing company or payroll company to handle some of that stuff. And obviously I think it's certainly in the city's interest to get as many quotes and do as many different things as possible to see if it's if it's in the best interest for us and what the best deal we can get is. But either way, it's going to be an additional cost that I think you just need to factor into what the actual cost of your trash is. Are there any other questions that anyone has for me? Any other comments? Anything else you'd like to discuss? I know. Well, let me put something out there. Again, even though we're only empowered to deal with sanitation, and I'm only touching on sanitation and the SDS tonight, we still have to contract with other spaces, and there are opportunities for us to possibly gain some things from Gwinnett County in these negotiations. Because again, if we were to start our own police force or our own parks department, they would be losing significant revenue. And I guess the question I have for you guys is, how do you feel about different services that Gwinnett County has provided? Are you satisfied with it? Are you not satisfied with it? Is there something that can be done better? How have your experience has been with Gwinnett PD or Gwinnett Parks or, Gwinnett Public Works? Are your roads getting repaired well? Are they in bad shape? When you've called up the county to help you out with something, how have they done? And is there any area that you see us needing to get more out of Gwinnett in, or are you largely happy with the services that you've been got? You can contact me on the chat thing, raise your hand thing, and again, for those of you who joined late, you can click the little hand button on the top right side. You can click the chat or the Q&A. William, I'm not sure, your hand is still up, so I'm not sure. I'll unmute you. I'm not sure if you had another question or that's still from before. If you don't have another question, just let me know. William, are you there? William, do you have something else for me, or was that still from before? I'm guessing that's from before because he's not talking. But again, we have a lot of, I won't say leeway, but we do have the ability to negotiate with other people for these trash contracts or for these other contracts and for these other services. And I think it is something that we should try to take advantage of and try to see what we can get out of it. Obviously, the best deals that we can get, the better we are. And I want to see us get the best services we can for the least amount of money. But I also don't want to start any open-ended services that are going to start costing us a fortune. I believe that part of one of my I know I made the promise, that one of my campaign promises is I don't believe we should enact any of our own new services for 4 years. Now, trash is something we're empowered to do, and again, originally I was gung-ho and said we should do our own trash, obviously because we can save a lot of money. Now, when I look at some of the legal fees and arguments and some of the things that may come out of this, I don't know if the savings are that pronounced. Obviously, if some people are unhappy, like William is, and feel they're not getting as good a deal, then I will try to look into that and see what better deal we can get. Maybe we can get yard waste included in our trash service. That is an option we can look at. Maybe not. Maybe we can get the cost cut a little more because we'll be able to agree on a contract separately than other people. I got another question. It's from Renee. Renee, are you there?
It's Renee.
Hi. Go ahead.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, I just have a quick question. Is it quite normal for when Gwinnett County does come in to pave our streets that they just do one part at a time? In other words, they had come through and paved all of Bankside Way, but did not pave one other street that wraps around to another dead end. And then they came back like a year later and did just that other part that they hadn't done before, which caused a lot of black all over the other paved Bankside Way. Is it normal for them to do that, not just do the whole neighborhood?
Well, as far as I know, government, they're not really masters of efficiency. So I can't say, I can't say what's normal for them. My guess is they probably have kind of a to-do list, and they don't really go down to try to minimize costs. It's kind of once something's done and approved and the costs are approved and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, they go do that. And then even if there's another street that's in disrepair next to it, they probably have to go through the same process and look through and appropriate and deal with all that. Again, I can't say if it's normal or not, but I would have to assume based on how I'm familiar with, governments doing other things. And, I'd like to say that if we took over our own paving or contracted it out, we could do it better. I would certainly think that if we contracted it out, who we contracted to would probably have more interest in being more efficient in that. Obviously, I think Gwinnett should have some interest in being efficient. But, I think when you have something like that where it's spread a little thinner like that and one department doesn't always know what the other one is doing and are not trying to maximize efficiency, I think that's more possible that something like that could happen.
It looks horrible. It's worse than, had they just not paved at all.
Sure, and I'll certainly keep that into account and talk with them. Public Works, again, is something that obviously we can take over. We could contract out to another party. It's not something we're required to stick with Gwinnett for. Obviously, I think with some of the things that we have lined up over the next 4 years in terms of negotiating some of these deals and just setting up a city, there's a lot of work to do. And okay. I want to be careful. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, got that.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure we're not basically biting off more than we can chew early on, but certainly it is something where because we have this leverage to do these sort of things, I think it's something where we should take advantage of it whenever we can and say, Gwinnett, if they have to do a better job of paving our roads and they want us to stay with them, then that's what we have to do, or we'll consider another party. And obviously they make a lot of money, they got a lot of tax bills from us from doing this. So I would think it would make sense for them to try to keep our business. You know, I think we're in a unique situation that really I can't think of any other city in, is because there's not many areas where the government has to compete for your business. And I think this is a rare situation where the government does have to compete for our business, because we have the option, and I give credit to the people that came up with this charter, that they can leave, that we can leave if we want to in certain areas. Now, obviously, and for those who aren't aware, if we want to add any service, and again, that could be something else, that could be anything from police to paving, parks, or 3IUs, because they're the ones I get asked about most, and they all start with P, so they're easy to remember. But for us to just do another service, we have to pass it in City Council, which requires 4 of the 7 votes, and then it goes to a referendum of the residents, where it needs 50% or more than 50% of the people voting in that election. So, we want to make sure that, at least I want to make sure that nothing becomes a boondoggle. And I think anytime you bring something in-house, you have to really make sure there's significant savings, because they always end up being a lot more costly than you expect. I think it's something where you have to look at that, because anything else, you have to bring up administrative costs, and in some areas with, for example, police, there's a lot of equipment costs, there's building costs, and there's probably a lot of legal costs. I can see a lot of that in public works too. You got to think of some of the environmental studies you probably have to do in some areas, and some of the other things, and the contracts. My preference would be obviously to contract things out before we try to bring anything in-house. But I think it would be a dereliction of my duty, even though I don't believe in the first 4 years we should be adding services, that we should be at least soliciting bids on everything and knowing the spread between what we're actually paying for something and what the possibility we can get it for. And then, like I said, my goal is to try to bring as much information to you, the voters, as possible. And once you have that, let me know what you think, and try to set us up where, if it's not myself, the next city council has all the information needed, and the voters have all the information needed to make the right decision, whatever they feel that may be. Any other questions?